Well, the time has come and here we go. We're back for the third annual head coach story, and this time it's the FM20 edition. A series that combines two of the most popular football manager stories. Firstly, a journeyman from Sunday League football and no coaching badges, hopefully all the way to the top of the footballing world. And secondly, a director of football challenge as we work under the modern head coach restrictions. I hope you're ready for a roller coaster tale, as this one promises to be a cracker. Yes, hello and welcome along to Season 1, Episode 1 of The Head Coach with me, Daniel, my annual football manager save. I wasn't going to leave it for that long, was I? I've been missing it already, so here we go earlier than planned. We're here as the unemployed manager, and just to prove a point to you, Sunday League manager, no coaching badges at all. We are starting at the very bottom of the football pyramids. We're a 26-year-old Englishman with a little bit of Irish blood. We've got no experience and no reputation, and we're going to have to build ourselves from the bottom. So for those of you that are returning, you obviously know what this is all about. If you're new to the channel, quite simply, we play a journeyman style save, but we're also working as a head coach only, under director of football restrictions with no say in transfers, contracts or staffing. We have to work with the people we're given and try and get the best out of the side on the training ground. It relies on tactical nous, it relies on working your players to their potential, and we've got to try and develop people within with no say in how long they're going to be at each club. It can lead to some of the most frustrating, hair-pulling moments you could imagine, but also some of the greatest rewards. And if you haven't seen this series before, then click back to the FM19 version, as that one was certainly a roller coaster too. If you are looking forward to this series, then please do put a thumbs up on the video. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe for daily FM content on our new schedule starting from today. We'll just rotate our two long-term stories every single day on the channel. So one day we'll have this head coach series, and any other day it'll be our Dorking Wanderer story. That's our One Club series, which started a few weeks back, so if you're not up to date with that one yet, then do click in the eye above. I really have fallen in love with that save already, so I hope you enjoy it just as much. But today the most important part, as many of you will already be aware, is we've got to go on a job hunt and find ourselves a club. There's not many available that are probably suited to our reputation. I think the only two we might even get an interview at are Stenhousemuir in Scottish League 2, obviously a league we've got experience in. We did an FM19 challenge with Clyde at that level, so we know a few of the players around there. And then Dartford down in the National League South, though I'd like to avoid that at the start to be honest, as we're managing in that league with Dorking in our other series, so if it is going to be England, I'd rather it be the North. But I don't think we're going to get to be fussy here, so let's go and get on the job hunt. We've got loads of leagues loaded in Europe, and plenty outside as well. You can see there we've got likes of China, US and Brazil loaded. There's plenty of others too. I think we've got the leagues in India, South Africa, and a couple of others there as well. So it certainly gives us plenty of opportunity to go worldwide and have a good old tour. So we're going to skip ahead for the next few days, and we'll be back as soon as we get an interview. I'll just show you the first one of our job interviews on camera, and then after that we'll just come back when we get a job offer. Well, we're back 6 days later for our first job interview, and as suspected, it's Stenhousemuir who have given us the opportunity. I just want to show you the first interview to see how different it is to last year. Of course, we'll probably see some along the way as we apply for bigger jobs from our current club, but we've got to get that first step on the ladder, and I just want to see how different it is. Of course, there's club vision and things like that this year, so I think it might be slightly different. So let's get down to business and see what they want from us. They're asking whether we're going to be able to commit to a long stint. I'm going to give my quite honest opinion here. I don't care about previous managers. I'm only focused on what I can do. I know I can look after finances. I'm not expecting a big budget in Scottish League 2. We've got to work within the wage budget, and here is the club culture coming through, making progress on and off the pitch. They want to be competitive in League 2, so they're not expecting a great deal. Third round of the Scottish Cup and competitive in a Betfred Cup, and then eventually make the League 2 playoffs moving forward over the next 4 or 5 years. So they're not actually expecting to get promotion in the next 5 years, just to be competing for those top 4 spaces, so I'm quite happy to work with those proposals, and hopefully the board will be happy enough with that. They want us to attempt to be competitive this year, so let's just be cautious for now. The temptation is to say we can do slightly better, but I've learned the hard way in the past that's not always the best option. If you commit to too much and then don't achieve it, it can be very hard to work your way back up the ladder. I'm happy with the wage budget, I'm not going to argue. It's not going to be anything to do with us as course. Our director of football is going to be in charge of that, so I'm not certainly going to make any issue. We'd quite like a parent club set up, but the board don't want to do that. So we've got no further requests, and that's the interview over. Probably a bit more brief than I was expecting. So we'll go and skip through again, see if we get this job, or if not, we'll be back when we get our first job offer. Well, we're back almost 3 months later to the day. I've got to say, I didn't expect it to quite be that long. Of course, as you can imagine, we were rejected for the Stenhouse-Muir job. We did get an interview for Dartford, but unfortunately we failed there too. And we had an interview for a job in Bulgaria, but again to no avail. But we are finally back with a job offer on the 29th of September, so we're not going to get a pre-season with a team. We're very much well into the season. And of course that means we've probably got a club that are performing poorly, and we're going to have a job to build confidence. So looking at the available job screen, I think you can probably work out who it is, but let's go and get that confirmation anyway and take a look at our very first job offer. Who's going to be the first step on the ladder? It's Kettering Town of the National League North, and of course though they are in the Northern League, they're not a particularly northern club, so not a huge trek from Luton. I should be able to get there pretty comfortably, and for 750 quid a week it's not a bad offer at all. That's almost 40 grand a year for the 6th tier. So we've had our interview and been offered negotiations for the job offer. You can see we've got a club culture of signing players under 23, just as we have in our one club story with Dorking. We've got to work within the wage budget and we'll have no say in that, as our director of football's going to be doing it. And the one good thing with Kettering Town, they've already got a director of football, and that's something you don't often have at this level. Normally the chairman gets to pick his own. We've got to avoid a relegation battle, and at the moment the side are in 19th place. They're just 2 points above the relegation scrap, with only 1 point separating them and Brackley. It's very tight down there, so we could move up very quickly, but equally if we don't get going well from the start, we could find ourselves bottom in a couple of weeks' time. They've got a pretty decent side squad, which we'll go and meet in a minute of course, as we hope we'll be able to have a successful spell here. We've got to become and continue to be an established Vanarama National League North team, though if we manage to do that, I'm sure we'll get some offers from higher up the ladder. So let's start the negotiations. I'm actually going to be really cautious here. It's been 3 months, which has never happened in this series before. We've always managed to get a job pretty quickly, so I'm just going to go up 25 quid, and if they don't take that, I'll just stick with the original. So suggest the terms. They've been willing to take it, and we will finalise the deal. We've accepted the job offer to join Kettering Town, and we'll be back in a moment for our first day at the club. Here's the confirmation then. The photographers are flashing. We've been appointed manager of Kettering Town. A relegation scrap in the National League North to follow, but we're not going to worry about that for the moment. Let's just go through the opening screens and see what the club wants to do to introduce us, and then of course we'll go and meet the staff and players before rounding off the episode ahead of our first game. So let's just skip to the next screen here, see what's going to be said about the club, and fingers crossed there won't be anything too daunting, and we'll be able to get our teeth in pretty quickly. So the club has a 1-star reputation. The media prediction is relegation. That's really a bit of a concern actually. The Poppies expected to be relegated by the media suggests we might not have the best squad in the world. A semi-professional side with a 2,800 capacity ground, of course played in the National League just a few years back, but after a couple of relegations and financial trouble, they're making their way back up at the moment. One of the impressive things at the club though is they've got pretty decent facilities. Adequate training facilities is very good at this level. Below average youth facilities, probably slightly better than normal too, and most importantly an average youth recruitment. We could well get a decent youth intake. I'm really impressed with that side of the club. That's something I'm going to be keeping an eye on. But let's go through to the next screen and see our best 11, a formation that suggests a back 3. That's certainly something we're not going to be playing. I have no idea how to get a back 3 to work, and as a result we won't be seeing that too often. We'll try and make something work with a back 4. It says the squad's personality is pretty professional. That's of course something positive for us, so let's just try and get into it now. We already know the club culture, and we'll set up a press conference and backroom staff report. We just want to go and meet the team. So there's the official confirmation. We've got loads of players in the last year of their contract. Of course you would do, it's non-league level. Most players work on 1-year deals, and I'd assume the rest will be on pay-as-you-play contracts without having anything at all. This is an interesting one. Playing time expectations, linked to the new feature, the playing time pathway. A couple expecting slightly more football than before. That's something I'm not going to promise at this stage. Competition expectations, 4th qualifying round of the FA Cup, 1st round of the FA Trophy, and of course avoiding a relegation battle in the league, which is going to require us to get off to a good start. We'll deal with a tactics induction shortly, and our introductory advice as well. Most of it's related to tactical advice and setting up set pieces too. We're not going to do that in today's episode, just want to meet the squad and staff, and then hopefully we'll be able to plan for the next episode, where we'll obviously show our first league game on camera. So let's go and have a look at the staffing first. Of course, one of the most important parts of this series. We're so reliant on a director of football, head of youth development and assistant manager, and you can see we haven't got an assistant or coach here, barring a player Luke Graham. So our director of football is Alan Doyle. He's on an amateur contract which doesn't bode well. He's got 4 for judging a player ability and 7 for potential, 1 for negotiating. That does not look good and is a little bit disturbing. That's probably not the best start we were looking for. Jason Thurland is ahead of youth development, £300 a week. His judging a player ability and potentially 3. That is absolutely woeful. We are in a little bit of trouble here. I wish I'd done more research before I took the job. We could have waited for a different opportunity, and if the squad isn't very good, we could be in an absolute world of trouble because I don't trust these two to bring in good players for us. So a quite disturbing start, but we won't worry about that for now. It looks like most of the rest of the coaching and scouting team have left, so we'll go and show you the responsibilities we set at the end, so you understand just how little say we have. But let's go and do the main bit, which is meet the squad, just after having a glimpse at the finances. They're pretty decent for this level, so I'm certainly not going to complain about that. I've come to the squad screen and I can see a couple of standouts already, but my worry is beyond the star players, there really isn't a great deal of quality at the club, and there certainly is a few areas with problems, so we'll go and have a look at those in a second. But of course we'll do our usual, go to the under 23s and 18s, see if there's any players worth bringing up to the first team. So let's just go through that induction very quickly and see if there's anyone worth promoting. There's a couple of players with 2-star ability, so we'll put them in the senior squad for the sake of this, and then there's none in the under 18s, so we won't worry about that. Let's just get back to the squad view. Well, one of the problems I have here is that 2 of the best players at the club are goalkeepers, and I'm sure they're both earning wages as well, as none of them have that little pay-as-you-play sign. Manny Idem is the first choice keeper, and he's someone familiar on the channel actually. Do you remember last year with Slough in Season 4? We signed a goalkeeper, Emmanuel Idem. Our director of football brought him in as we started the season with no first choice keeper, and he was a really brilliant player there, and we've got him in goal for Ketter in town. That's lovely to have a little reunion at the start. I do love moments like that in this series. He's a 4-star ability goalkeeper and is certainly going to be first choice, and he looks like an absolutely fantastic keeper. The backup Paul White looks pretty good as well, certainly no problems playing him if need be, though on 250 quid a week we'd be really happy if that money was invested elsewhere and hope our director of football will get rid of him. Rather unusually, there's quite a few players on the transfer and loan list, something we don't often see when joining a club, although I guess we're usually joining at the start of a season rather than midway through such as this. There's 2 standout defenders which we've definitely got to look at. Liam Williams, a 20-year-old centre-half, 4.5-star ability, 5-star potential, really decent physically, got plenty of pace, stamina's a bit of a worry, mentally he's a little bit fragile, but technically he's very good as well. He looks like a really solid defender. He's come from Sheffield Wednesday's youth team, played every league game this season so far, and I think he's going to be a linchpin of our defence, so we're certainly going to have him in the first 11. And then the key left back is a player I recognise, Joe Scar's 4.5-star ability. I'm sure he's played for Huddersfield back in the day. He came through at the club and played a lot of games, loads of League 1 and 2 experience, and playing for Halifax in the National League last year, he's never played at a level this low before. That shows that he's probably a very good player, and he's certainly someone we'll make use of. He's probably the best player I've seen at this level for a long time, certainly better than anyone we had at Dorking in the other save. He is a very good player for this level of football, and he's also earning a pretty big wage. But a really good left back and someone we can build the team around, and even more evidence we're not using a back 5. He is absolutely fantastic in his position, and we're certainly going to get him playing in his best role. We've got one other 3-star defender, which is Luke Graham, who was also the coach, I think. Decent across the board, and again I recognise him from National League level. Forest Green, he played for Luton before, that's probably why I recognise him, but he's a decent player and he's good enough for this standard. We're certainly not complaining about him being here. He's not a bad coach either mentally, so that's not too bad for us. I'm pretty happy he's at the club, though there seems to be a massive deficit at right back. All of our right backs only 2-star ability, one of them on the transfer list, one on a pay-as-you-play. That's certainly an area that needs improving, but of course we can't do anything about that. On to midfield, and I think there's 3 standouts by the looks of things. Firstly is Marcus Kelly, a left winger. I'm sure he used to play for Forest Green. He played for Wrexham last, and yes, Forest Green before. Lots of experience at conference level. Professional personality, brilliant for mentoring, and he looks a really solid left midfielder. Again, why would you play a back 3 or 5 when you've got him? We've got a solid left back and a solid left midfielder, and that suggests to me we play a 4-4-2. 4-4-2. Of course, if we haven't got two strikers, we can play a holding or attacking midfielder, but for now I think it's 4-4-2, and we've certainly got one wing sorted. Let's have a look at the two decent central midfielders. Connor Kennedy's 3-star ability, 22 years of age, he can cover centre half, and he looks a really decent prospect actually. Nothing standing out, but just solid across the board. He should be a steady Eddie in the middle. And then the other 3-star midfielder's Michael Richards. He's 24 years of age, bit more of a ball winner, he's got better defensive attributes, slightly more aggressive too, and he's had a decent season so far. And then moving forward, I'm starting to see difficulties. We've got two right wingers who can't play wide midfield. Aaron O'Connor, another former Luton man, 36 years of age now. He's been at Kettering a few years, played for the likes of Newport and Forest Green. He's a decent player, nothing special, though he can pay up front too if need be. Then the next one's Daniel and T, again 3-star ability. At 27, he's a decent winger and striker, but I wouldn't like to be relying on him as first choice. Then Alex Nimmerly is a player I recognise, played for Manchester City as a youth player I think. He often came up in previous FMs as a really talented young striker, and he's been across Europe playing in different leagues, not scoring many goals it's got to be said, and he's played 11 without scoring this season. That's got to be a little bit of a concern. But on paper he's a really good target man and forward, someone we're going to try and work around. Looks a decent player and I hope he can do well for us. Certainly looks our best prospect up front. And then looking at that team, we definitely need a striker, but moving over to the right of midfield, I've noticed an experienced player, Lyndon Meikle, who could solve the problem. I'm sure he's played in the National League before, 2.5-star ability, 2.5 potential, and he looks a solid right midfielder, might be the temporary solution to our problems. So definitely a side full of decent players, but there are a couple of positions we're woefully short. An unbalanced squad is how I'd describe it. The left side's brilliant, the right side's awful. Up front we're definitely a man short, and we could do with a slightly better midfielder. So our director of football will hopefully get to work. It looks like there's a little bit of wage bill left, so fingers crossed he'll be able to get a couple in, as the transfer window's open till March at this level. The director of football's in place, so that shouldn't take so long, though he is going to be involved in recruiting staff. So I'm going to finally show you the staff responsibilities, just to show you how much of a hands-off role we have. But as we do that, let me know in the comments what you think of the squad, where you think our director of football should strengthen, and more importantly, where do you think he will strengthen? We've seen he hasn't got the best judgment of ability, so he could well do something a bit outlandish. We've got really poor coaches across the board, and scouts as well. I don't know if it's just because the people here are poor, or mainly because we haven't got anyone in post. So let's go and have a look quickly at our responsibilities, and set everything as we want it to. I'll go and make all the changes off camera, and show you what it looks like in the end. Okay, so we've set our staff responsibilities and you can just see how much of a hands-off role we have. We're responsible for 7 tasks, our staff responsible for 85 at the club. Now normally that's about 50-50 as all the youth teams are managed by other people, but in here we're only managing aspects of training and most of the match day and media experience. So let's go through them very quickly just so you can see what the staff are doing. All of the hiring and firing of staff, all of the contract renewals and management of anything related to staffing, all being done by another member of staff, so most of them the director of football for now, with the chairman obviously in charge of his contract. Scouting responsibility, we have nothing to do with the meetings, they're all being done by the director of football. Of course once he gets a chief scout we may well go and adapt that, but the most important thing, it will always be a responsible staff member. In terms of transfers and contracts, absolutely everything's on the director of football there, and again once we're able to get other people in, they may well be involved at that stage, but everything for transfers in and out, new contracts for players that we've got at the club, all of that going to be dealt with by him. We're not going to have a say whatsoever. We're doing all the media and a little bit of the training. I usually focus on individual training personally. I feel like we can make more of a difference as the manager, and that's the area I prefer to focus on. In terms of tactics, we've got one of our coaches doing a lot of that at the moment, the tactical briefings and opposition instructions. That's largely because we don't yet have an assistant manager, which hopefully our director of football will get for us soon. And then on match day we're doing everything for the first team aside from leading friendly matches, not something I often do anyway, as I'm normally so invested in getting through the summer. So that's just to show you how much of a hands-off role we have and how little involvement we have in staffing and contracts. We don't have anything to do with it whatsoever, so we're so reliant on our director of football being a success for us. Let's finish on the schedule screen to see when our first league game is, as actually our first match is an FA Cup tie. It's against lower league opposition, so I'm going to dig my feet in off camera, try and get through that one, and then we'll be back for the first league game in the National League North, which looks like it's going to be a home to Brackley. I think the only possible obstacle there there is if we end up drawing and having a replay in the cup, then I presume that would be in midweek and the next one would move down, so it could well be the Farsley Celtic game instead, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But I hope you did enjoy this episode and seeing us join our first club. I'm so excited to be back with the head coach. If you did enjoy the episode and are happy to see us in a job, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Get your predictions in. Do you think we can save Ketter in town? I'll go and put the league table up very quickly. It's so tight down there at the bottom of the league, but hopefully we'll just be able to survive. Of course, let me know in the comments if you have any other questions related to this series, and I'll obviously try to answer them the best I can. Subscribe to the channel for daily FM20 content from my 2 long-term stories. This one, The Head Coach, where we've just joined our first club, and our long-term one-club story with Dorking Wanderers, where we're of course already a couple of seasons in. If you're not up to date with that one, then please do go back and catch up with it, as well as our FM20 beta save with Luton Town. I've really enjoyed making the Football Manager content so far, and I hope you enjoy watching it just as much. But a massive thanks for watching and joining me for the new series. I really do appreciate it, and I do hope you'll come and join me next time as we manage our first league game with Kettering.